Hello everybody and welcome to today's masterclass, Film and Video Production. My name is Tom Strnad and thanks for joining us, and this is really going to be an exciting journey. We're going to spend 4 weeks learning about film and video production, and with the goal of for all of you to write and shoot and produce a short film. So, really exciting workshop to be part of. So, once again, my name is Tom Strnad. I'm the lead digital artist of the Creator Space, and thanks for joining us. I know here in the South Georgian Bay region, Blue Mountains area, it's a bit of a snowy day, so it's a perfect time to write. And that's going to be our goal before we get into next week, where we start to talk about production and using cameras and working with what we have and so on. So the great part of this workshop is I want to definitely thank all of our partners in making this happen. So we have the Canada Council for the Arts, we have our library partners, Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, Wasaga Beach Public Library. And what we'll be talking about is as we progress is you can access this final draft screenwriting software on the computers. So these computers are available at the Blue Mountains Public Library and at Wasaga Beach Public Library, depending on the hours of operation and that access. And we'll also talk about the fact that we can access this final draft software as an app on an iOS app as well. So it's about $25 or so, and it can be purchased. So it's very low cost, affordable software, and otherwise you can access it through the libraries at the computer station, our digital arts workstations. The other thing that's really exciting is that we'll talk about accessing the digital arts equipment. So working with the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K and working with the available microphones and sound equipment, lighting equipment, and so on. And and that's the really fun part, is that you can access that equipment through the libraries. And we'll also look at just using what you have. So using an iPhone, using an iPad, and shooting with those. Tons of resources. Visit our website, www.tbmcs.ca, and you can access our YouTube channel from that website. And there you'll see all the resources, tons of information on production and guides on how to shoot with the different cameras and things. So we'll be talking about it, but the point is, in this class we're going to have a journey with the goal of creating being able to produce a film throughout the next 4 weeks. And then this afternoon, if you haven't already signed up, I have the narrative film editing masterclass, 4 weeks. So it's very complimentary workshop. So if you're doing this, you can also sign up for that and then go right into editing. So take what we're doing here, and if you want to be editing your own film, want to aspire to be a writer, director, editor, really great way to learn the whole craft and process and take your film all the way through. So yeah, let's get right into this. So week 1 is going to be about story and screenwriting. So let's see what that is. So week 1, we're going to look at film and video production overview, finding a story, what is screenwriting, screenwriting essentials, using Final Draft for scripts. And that's what we're going to do today. So again, this is week 1, week 2, 3, 4. I encourage everyone to sign up through Eventbrite. Make sure to sign up for all 4, and then you'll get reminders. Don't worry, by signing up for 1, you'll still see the online event links for all 4 weeks. So just go to the appropriate week. But if you're like me and you like to get reminders and make sure that you're not missing a class, then definitely sign up on Eventbrite, and they'll give you those nice friendly reminders before it's starting. And in case you miss any of this, all of these links are available after. So you can always watch these later if you can't make it live, or rewatch them once you've attended the live and you want to go through any of it. So don't worry about taking notes, just enjoy, absorb, and get your creative thinking hats on as we get into finding a story. So film and video production overview. So I'm trying to get some essence concepts of what this is and what we're trying to achieve. So film and video production is the process of creating a story and capturing it with a camera. And then our goal is, we're editing the footage and releasing it for the public to view. And we might not always have a massive public release, but definitely even just sharing it with our friends and family, that could be great. So that's the idea, is we're creating a story and capturing it with a camera. And that's really what we're doing in this production class. Then the editing is what we'll be doing in our editing masterclass. And that's kind of the whole process. So production, post-production. So that's the goal. creating a story. That's really the essence. So the main stages of production. So, and you'll see that it's interesting, and I think this is the thing where I really want to stress that people might say, hey, why are we spending the first week not filming anything yet? And really, pre-production is key, because that age-old thing, if you don't plan, you plan to fail, or you fail to plan, you plan to fail. All these different versions of that. So that planning, pre-production is key. So two main stages, pre-production and production. So in pre-production, we look at story development. What is your story? A treatment, so basically outlining it in like a paragraph, kind of like a short story, writing it out as a short story. Writing a script and script formatting. Then we look at doing a breakdown. Then we want to figure out budgeting. What is it going to cost? What are some of the things you might need to buy? Maybe you need to buy wardrobe. Maybe you need to buy props. Maybe there's a mug in the scene that has to be painted. So, you're not going to want to necessarily use your own fine mug, fine china at home. You might want to buy a mug somewhere and paint it. Looking at casting, are there actors? And I'm not saying you have to have, a story could be told just even without people. It could be told with animals. It could be told with just objects, point of view. So there's lots of things. And I really love the idea of, I hope everyone can experiment and, try different things too. And what is a story is, hope that everyone can push that too. So casting, who's going to be your actors, or, could be a pet. Maybe that's your cast. Crewing, who is going to help you shoot this? It could just be yourself. Maybe you want someone to help you. Again, family and friends. Make sure it's in a safe network of a social bubble, so that we're keeping it safe in terms of the production. Scheduling, what's going to be required? How many days? When do you want to film it? When do you need to film it? If it's taking place in the nighttime, you can't really film it in the daytime. So just things like that. A shot list, figuring out which shots you want to take or capture to tell the story. A storyboard could be similar. You might not do all of this. So this is and it's not an exhaustive list. There's even more things to do, but this is like kind of the main headlines of pre-production. You can see how big that is. Then production is really, if you plan all of that, the production is then just filming the script with cast and crew using a film or video camera. That's really the essence of production, putting all that together. So you can see how heavy pre-production is. I think a lot of times, a lot of people might forget how important that pre-production phase is. And I wanted to show that, look how many elements pre-production takes up versus production. You're just executing what you've planned. So, if you just go into production without pre-production, it could be really messy. And that's a very common mistake for first-time filmmakers. I myself too, when I was, in film school, going through like some of the first productions, you try to plan things and things just would always go wrong. And all of a sudden, what was supposed to be a few hours ends up being 12 hours. And everyone's not very happy, especially if you have actors who are maybe sitting around for 5 hours as you try to design a mug. If you're painting the mug, can you imagine if you didn't paint the mug ahead of time and you're like, oh, I need this prop, and you're painting it, right? So it can get really annoying and frustrating for the cast and crew if you're not planned, if you don't have things. If there's a pencil in a scene, the actor has to write with a pencil. You can imagine just not having a pencil. All of a sudden, someone has to go out and get a pencil, and that it just takes extra time. So that kind of simple planning of, I need a pencil, and having that and bringing that to set, and what type of pencil, is it a grease pencil like I have in my hand here? Is that what it's going to be? Someone's drawing on glass. Know what's needed in the story, and that's it. Really breaking it down and demystifying what's required, and understanding. And it can be nice and ideal to say, okay, well, I'm just going to try things out, and fine. Just make sure everyone's aware that you're going to want to take more time and try different things out. But planning is still important. So really aim for that planning and in the production. Okay, so finding a story. It's great to be planning something, but the first thing we need is a story. So, if you're out looking for your first film, or maybe you've already made a film or a documentary and you want to get into a narrative film, why not look at some of these concepts? So I suggest this. For the best results, try writing a story about something you know or something that happened to you. Personal experiences are authentic, and they're a great way to start your script writing journey. So if you can look at things that you already know, people that you know, and you can change it for keeping everyone's names anonymous and change it up a little bit for the dramatic effect. And it's really great if you can look at things you already know or something that happened to you. It's very authentic, and that's really a key thing that I think as filmmakers, we're really trying to look at that authentic voice. And what is that authentic voice? So your voice is going to be yours, and it's authentic. Is it right if you want to just tell other people's authentic stories and make them yours, right? So try to really understand what that is. And story that you know. So it could be, something that happened to relatives, something that happened to friends that you were involved with. So if you're involved with something, it can also stay authentic. So really look at those personal stories, and that can help inspire and help you find a story. Rather than trying to force a story that, maybe isn't authentic to you. And you'll see that if you're writing about something it comes out so naturally. And that's really the great part of script writing, that if it can come out naturally, it'll work really well. Okay, so then the writing stages. So we've figured out what our story is going to be, and then we have our writing stages. So again, this is what I suggest, and there's different schools of thinking and so on, and this is somewhat my approach as well. So my process I'm sharing with you. So I always like to do this is, start with one line. So a sentence that summarizes the essence of your film. So really one sentence. And if you can't tell it in one sentence, it could be maybe too complex of a story. And, in that essence, if you can say it in one sentence, especially for a short film, that's always the test. And I've been told that too before. If someone asks you, what's your film about? If you can't say it in a sentence, maybe you're still struggling to find out what the film is about. So if you can start with that process, and it's kind of a reverse process. So, to get a sentence, you might have, 100 sentences that you need to figure out what is the essence and bring it down to one sentence, right? So, just give an example. A film about a man who befriends a bird, and one day the bird never returns. That's one line, just a quick summary, the essence of the film. So, it tells you there's a man, there's a bird, and the bird disappears, and it leaves a mystery, right? That's really just the essence. So then in the treatment phase, stage 2, part 2, then the idea of a treatment is, it's like writing a short story. So maybe 1 to 3 pages in paragraph format that present the beginning, middle, and end. And we're going to look at structure shortly. And, by having that, you start to introduce the characters, the themes, overall plot. So 1 to 3 pages, beginning, middle, and end. I'm flipping around. And, in paragraph format. It's like a short story. So that's what a treatment would be. Then the script is what you take all of those first one part, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, the script. You write the screenplay in script format, and that includes the settings, so the locations where it's taking place, characters, dialogue, and actions. And everything that is visually presented in the film should be presented in your script. So if you see a car, if you see a bird, if you see trees, if you see flowers, if you see different characters, if you see what they're wearing, all of that should be described visually. So remember that the key thing here is show, don't tell. So we want to really show everything. So the person reading the script should visually see and come to conclusions based on what they're seeing. So if there's an elderly person, it's really great to show that the left foot is dragging behind the right foot, instead of saying the person suffers from uh, a bad knee, right? That's telling us the person suffers from a bad knee. But by one foot dragging behind and the person holds their knee, we're showing the same thing without telling it. It takes a bit longer, but again, think of the visuals. So if you're watching a film, it's visual. You're not having someone just say, this person has a bad knee. That's, can be done in literature, but in a visual medium like film or video, we need to tell, we don't need to tell, we need to show, right? So we need to show everything that the audience needs to see to understand the film and what's going on. Okay, so screenwriting. This is the exciting part. So it's the art and craft of writing a screenplay, script for media. So they can be original, they can be adapted. So we see that a lot. So if you think about, even just like the Oscars, you have, or the Canadian Screen Awards, you have the original scripts and then you have adapted. So adapted is adapting it from another work. So it can be adapted from a novel, it could be adapted from a play, it could be adapted even from another previous film and changing it. So those are those adaptations. So you can also, it could be adapted from, a poem. It could be adapted from a piece of music. It could even be technically adapted from maybe a piece of art and you're trying to tell the story, right? So think about what it is. It's original. You've come up with this premise and this plot on your own. Adapted, it's from something else that you've read. Now, here's the thing. You want to make sure that you have the rights. So if you're adapting something, you want to make sure that you have the rights to adapt it. Otherwise, that could be a copyright infringement. So I really recommend we start with original works that you're creating, you're writing, and it's, you're in control of it. Then you can move into adaptations in the future. Okay. So screenplays include the movement, actions, expression, and dialogue of the characters. So that's really key, is that it's really, characters will usually drive the story. Again, not always. It could be films without characters. Again, a bit of a challenge to do that, but you think there's always something. Something's a character. So if a film is about trees, the trees are the characters. So even though there might not be humans, the characters are still something. So it could be a box that blows down the sidewalk, right? That box becomes a character because we're following it and telling the story of the box. Okay, so the 3-act story structure. And this is that kind of idea. A lot of different ways of saying it, but really we have the beginning, middle, and end. So if you think about Act 1, establishing, Act 2, building, the middle, Act 3, resolve, the end, right? So establish, build, resolve, beginning, middle, end. So we have the inciting incident. Something happens, right? So I gave that example, a man befriends a bird. That's the inciting incident. So the bird's there, man sees the bird, what's going to happen. Okay, rising action, the bird looks hungry, so the man finds something to feed the bird with, birdseed. And the bird keeps coming back, and the man runs out of seeds. So that could be plot point 2. So plot point 1, the man decides to feed the bird. Rising action, the bird is very hungry, keeps eating. Plot point 2, the man runs out of seeds. So now we're getting into its building, right? So what's the climax? So the man runs around trying to find seeds, can't find any more seeds, returns, and the bird is gone. That's the resolution. So that's it, beginning, middle, end. With those inciting incident, plot point 1, rising action, midpoint, plot point 2, and the climax. So you can see how quickly we can structure out a story with that sample of the bird story. And really simple, effective, and the key, what we want to try and do right now in this class in producing a short film, is keep it simple. And let's use it as a learning exercise to keep it simple. And I really want to stress that, because there can be this idea of you want to do a Marvel or DC universe type film with flying people and special effects and stuff. That's fine. We'll get to that. You can get to that, but we want to just keep the building blocks. So keep it really simple, and we want you to be successful in achieving this first production. Okay, And maybe you've already made some films. And so I challenge you to maybe unlearn what you've learned or how you've been working and try it this way. And again, there's no right or wrong way. We're just trying to achieve a film, but sometimes you can break it down. We've all done that. We've learned to ski. And then sometimes you take a lesson to help you improve skiing, and you have to break things down. You have to unlearn maybe bad habits. So, think of it that way too. It's always just be open to trying it differently. Maybe try it this way, like what we're exploring today. Okay, so the location. You got to find out where's it going to take place. The town, the streets, it could be nondescript. It's in a building. What planet? It could be on Mars. And how can we establish this? Through the narration, sound design, right? So these other things. So there could be a narrator. A long time ago in a galaxy far away, that kind of cliche, Star Wars. It could be, in a small town, there was an old man, and a bird, and a lonely bird, right? So a narrator can help us establish that. So again, that's a bit of a telling, but visually we'd want to see that, right, as well. So you can, think of it this way: if you can, in a script, if you can read it and you can see everything, you want to also think of that in the film. If you can turn the audio off and it still makes sense, then you're really effectively using the visual medium. Okay, so I digress a little bit, but think about, where is the story going to take place? What kind of space, what kind of location? Really important to set that up. The level of conflict. So, is it going to be inner conflict, personal conflict, institutional, environmental, right? So that bird example, a little bit of a inner conflict. That the man wants to help the bird. A bit of an environmental conflict, right? The bird is maybe, struggling to find food with the climate emergency, and personal conflict. The man is overwhelmed and too busy and not having enough time to maybe help the small things around him. So, a few levels of conflict. Even with a simple story, we already have a few of those human struggles. Man and nature, and trying to help nature, and maybe not being able to do that, and a bit of an introspective of like, okay, well, if he can't help the bird, what's he doing for the overall planet, right? So it can really be deep from something simple of that story. It could be a lot deeper in its levels of conflict. Okay, genre. Genre is great because it really gives some audience expectations. So a drama or comedy, you expect, a certain story to unfold. Horror film, you expect something horrible to happen. So in this case, a horror film with the bird, the bird would get ripped apart by a zombie. That's, what you'd expect in the horror film. In a comedy, the bird would, maybe poop on the man's head as it's flying away, and that becomes comedic. So those genres, it gives kind of expectations of what you want. But there could also be some fresh twists, right? So the horror film, the twist would be the bird attacks the man, and the bird is a zombie, and flies towards the man, bites the man, and zombifies the man. And that's a twist on what you think, that something's going to happen to the bird, right? Or the man could be a zombie and he's just being nice to the bird because there's still some nice humanity inside the zombie man. And then the comedy can be a twist as well, right? So maybe the man poops on the bird instead. You expect that, there's a twist. The bird poops on the man, and then the man like throws poop at the bird, right? So totally crazy comedy, but think of those unexpected twists and things. Could be funny. Okay, so some genre, just a quick listing of some of the things. So horror, western, war, coming of age, comedy, parody, satire, screwball, different levels of the comedy. Crime could be like a murder mystery, caper, detective, action adventure, survival story, back to that kind of, they could be combos, right? So like horror, survival story, zombies, historical drama, biographies, mockumentary, this is Spinal Tap, science fiction, like the Star Wars is really a science fiction adventure. So you can see that these are just some of the main types of genres, but they can combine, right? So you can have an adventure sci-fi, you can have a comedy crime story, comedy adventure, you can have a war historical drama, right? So a lot of different combos that we can have here as well. Okay, so character. So, true characters is revealed in the choices a human being makes under pressure. So the greater the pressure, the deeper the revelation. the truer the choice to the character's essential nature. So going back to this man and the bird, what are the choices? So if the man ignores the hungry bird, makes the character not a very good character, not a very good person, shows that he's maybe self-obsessed, going back to work. He has to go make phone calls or go and sell some stocks on his computer. So that's a character's revealed that way. But this character feels bad for the bird. The bird is hungry. He wants to feed the bird. And then he struggles to keep up with the bird, to feed the bird, and runs out of food, and he's just ill-prepared. So maybe the character is kind of struggling with time and time management, and what's the place of Earth, him versus nature, and all these kinds of things. So you can see even just that, again, simple story tells us a lot about the character. Character feels bad for the bird, wants to feed the bird, struggles to keep up, and fails to maintain the friendship and care of the bird. The bird has to move on, right? So maybe that's kind of a allegory of what this person's life is as well, right? So you can see it kind of brings some real interesting revelations of the character, and we can play with that. Maybe the bird comes back and brings the man some food, and all of a sudden there's that kind of little extra twist. That could be after the credits. We can have that little character thing. The bird, the tables turn. The bird feels bad for the man, brings the man some food. It says, hey, let's have some. I found some pizza in the park, so it brings it to the man to eat together. So characterization, so all these kinds of things, like what's the person's age, gender, style of speech, personality. It's great to know these kinds of things, education, and it's also called backstory. So if we know what the person's backstory is, it could really help us understand how the person would react. So, if I make this character, again, like a stockbroker, he's at home having to do his day trading, really busy, and ignoring this hungry, wobbling bird outside in the cold, that's based on the fact of what the backstory is of the character, right? So that kind of backstory is really always fun to know, because it helps us then write about the character. If we know who the character is and their backstory and what they do and who they are, it will come out very naturally on the page. And this is why I go back to the first point of writing about what you know or people you know. It makes it a lot easier if you know this type of a character intimately. Then it's going to be a lot easier to write about that character and those characterizations. Okay, so theme. What is your story's meaning, right? So we have this kind of theme of people, humans, and maybe taking over nature's space, humans versus nature, struggling to. Can this man help himself? He can't even help the bird. What's the role, the bigger picture? Then it turns out the bird can help the man, right? If we have that twist at the end. So that's that whole idea. What's the story's meaning? And you can see we already get some themes from that very, very simple story example. So the controlling idea. So this is that whole idea, that one-line sentence expressed in a single sentence describing how my life undergoes change from one condition of existence at the beginning to another at the end. And it's really the purest form of the story's idea, right? So, example, an unjust, negative world returns to justice. Happiness fills our lives when we learn to love unconditionally. So there's these really one-sentence controlling ideas are great. And same with the controlling idea it almost fills, that last one, happiness fills our lives when we learn to love unconditionally. It almost applies to this man and the bird and wanting to feed the bird. So that's a really cool thing that, you can see how it fits together really nicely, that controlling idea. So story climax. This is when the positive and negative assertion of the same idea, contested back and forth, builds in intensity. There's a crisis, there's a head-on collision. And that's what our story climax is. So this is where the man is scrambling to find seed. The bird keeps tapping at the window. There's a lot of stress, and the man cannot find the seed, and the bird flies away. So it's building, leading up to it, and the man's maybe had opportunity to go and get some bird seed, has not managed to find bird seed, can't figure out how to help the bird. So the bird just leaves, and that's kind of that climax of the story. We hope that this man and bird can stay friends, and he can feed the bird, but he can't. He can't find the bird, so it's a big, crazy, climax happening. So that would be how we do that. And that's, think about that. Really the big, and then there's kind of the denouement, as we resolve the story. The man comes to terms that he's failed, but maybe he'll be better next time. So, he's now ordering a big bag of seeds online to make sure that he doesn't run out again for the next bird, right? And then we have that really nice ending where the bird comes and brings the man some food. So kind of a twist on that. So that's the story climax, is the whole build up to having no seeds, and the bird disappears and potentially leaving the man forever. Okay, so let's talk about script format. Let's get right into this. So script format, what is it? What does it look like? And how does it work? And then we'll look right into the Final Draft application on an iPad. I'll demo, and it's the same kind of idea on a computer, and it'll be fun to just go through that script format. Okay. So here's the basic script format. You can have some notes on sound effects, music, and looking so interior, scene heading. Old farmhouse day. And then we can go to action line. So a man enters an orchard. He drags his left foot. A robin lands in the grass with feathers ruffled and looks up at the man. And then man would be like the character, or it could be a name. It could be like Joe. And then Joe can have his dialogue. So basically we have the scene headings. So it's interior, where are we? What time of day? Like, is it day, night, afternoon, and so on. Then we have our action, describing what happens in this scene. We have character names, and then their dialogue. And that's it. And we've probably seen some script samples before, and it's really that simple. So we can use something like Final Draft to write our scripts, or we can also just do it in like a Word or some sort of a document writing software, just with like tabs, and using this kind of format. So script writing, some of the quick keys. So I or E usually goes to interior, exterior, and this is more again for the desktop version, so it's going to be a little bit different in the iPad. Hit return key, you go to the action, then you hit tabs. The tab key goes to character names. Then you can have an expression box. So let's say it's Joe, then you hit tab again. You can say sad, and that gives us an idea of the kind of emotional tone of how he's talking. So it could be like that. Then we have hit return, and it goes to the dialogue box, and that'll be centered in the middle, character's dialogue, and then we can go back to hit return, and it goes back to action, and then you can go again, I or E for interior, exterior, put a scene heading, and then we keep going. More characters, more action, more scenes, and you keep going. Before you know it, you have a 100-page script and you have a feature film written. For this, we're looking to just write a few pages, and then Command S to save, Command Z to undo, delete. There's also a moon symbol in the Final Draft, so you can go from night mode, and then you can have regular black on white paper mode. Some people, I myself prefer that, to go into the night mode with white text over black. It's a little bit, I find, friendlier on the eyes, so that's kind of nice. And then there's the elements you can also go to, where you can toggle through. So maybe you made a mistake, or the software is misunderstanding what you're trying to do. So you can say, hey, this is supposed to be dialogue, and you can change that into a dialogue element. That's a really cool thing of it. Okay, so let's explore Final Draft. So here's a little logo. Again, you can access this on the iOS. And let's just pull this up and get this ready here on my iPad. Okay, so there we go. So here's my iPad screen. And so I'll just be demoing through here. So on the iPad, one of the first things that we want to do is create a document. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to go link on document, and I'm going to say screenplay, and we'll call it the man and bird. Okay, so we're going to write that script. Okay, so we got that. So here we go. Now we're ready to go. So there's a little wrench up here, so we can use that mode, the wrench, and we can go into like different concepts, scene numbers, and revisions, and make a title page, page setup, and so on. So what we're going to do is just start typing. You can see right away by hitting on the screen, it's going to give me those options right away. What am I doing? Interior, right? So I'm going to say interior. Oops. Office day, right? So we've set up where we are. We're in an office, interior day. And then we're going to type in some of the action. So what do we see? A man sits behind, oops, I'm hitting the wrong buttons, behind a computer screen. We see stocks ticking by as he types, as he quickly types on the keyboard. Okay, so that's our first scene. And then you can see, so I can go tab, and then that's what I want to do. So I'm going to hit return. I'm going to go to a character. Buy, sell, buy, yes. Okay, so there's a little bit of dialogue. So that's how we can just do it. So there's a character, there's a dialogue. Okay, and now let's say we want to go to another heading. So I'm going to go exterior, office, day. Okay, and now what we want to do is we're going to establish the bird. So black, finch, lands on the brown, muddy grass outside the office window. We see the man and his computer screen. The bird limps forward and has a slightly bent wing. Right? So we see we're establishing what's going on, who's involved, and so on. So, so that's how we do it. So interior, office, day, scene heading, man, dialogue, and we keep going from there. And so you just keep writing. And I'm going to finish this off a few pages, and that's how we would do it. So you can see it's a very very intuitive, right on the keyboard of the iPad type. There's a tab button, return, and then it gives you all these nice headings right on the top here. So I think that's really important, is these all the headings here. So we have we have our characters, dialogue, right? And it can quickly go, and then the action with that little action thing. And this thing is our scene headings. And we just keep going. And the great thing about this software is that it remembers everything. So it will start to create a list. So if I have like office, park, so on, it's going to create all these different locations, and it's all in there. And and that's the nice thing about the kind of intuitive nature of it. So that's the cool part. So we just keep writing away, and then when you're ready, and the nice thing about the iOS apps is that it basically just saves as you go. But then you can also you can make a PDF, you can email it, you can print it, and that's the really great thing. So if you email the script, someone else with this app can read it. And there's also a Final Draft like reading app. So it's those are free, and so people can just read your script. But I would just recommend, if you want to share it with someone, just make a PDF. Choose the PDF option, PDF, and then we can place it where we want and create that, or we can email the script. And you can see now if I just go back here, and we have the man and a bird.ftx. So that's the file right here. The man and a bird.ftx. So it's Final Draft document ftx. It's saved, and that's it. So I'm ready to go. It's just on my iPad, and really simple, great software. So that's how we would just write, and then you keep going from there, and we write through and get that going, right? So to be able to create that story, right? So here's the idea. So if we can start to look at figuring out what kind of story you want to write. This is really our goals of week 1. Right, so we went over film and video production. What does that mean? How does that work? Trying to figure out finding a story. What kind of story do you want to write? What is screenwriting? I hope this has helped to explain that process. Screenwriting essentials. What's in a script, and then using Final Draft for scripts. So, this is really the key. Is starting with our story and our script. Understand what kind of story you want to do. Think about it. Maybe the first story you come up with, you might not necessarily want to make that into a film. So make sure it's something you really want to do and that you can have some fun doing too, because this is an exercise in getting through a production and making it, and as we go through each week. Okay, so that's what we talked about today. So Final Draft, again, you can just get it from the App Store on your Apple device. So it can be on an iPad, it can be on an iPhone as well. It's called Final Draft Mobile. That's the app name. I think it's about $25 Canadian, so it's not too expensive. And start with finding that story and figuring it out. So you can see right away, and this is the really key part of the production process. So there's really 3 stages. So we have our writing, production, and editing. And they're basically all 3 times we're writing, rewriting, and so on. So the first time you write the script, second time you write it as you shoot, because you might change lines and adjust scenes. The third time you rewrite it in the editing, where again you might change words around. We can do a lot of things in editing. We can change the scenes around. Maybe the beginning is the end, and the middle is the beginning, and we move things around into a kind of nonlinear structure. We might change our whole structure. So just because we write a beginning, middle, and end doesn't mean that that's the chronology. It doesn't have to be chronological. Again, the beginning could be the end, and the middle could be the beginning, and we flip it all around. So maybe we go backwards in time. We see the end of the story, and we go backwards till we see the beginning, right? So it doesn't have to follow chronology as well. So that's something to think about. Okay, so now what are we going to do? So here's our week 1 assignment for next week. So this is what I want everyone to do. So I want everyone to write a 2 to 3 page script that consists of the following. So we're trying to put some parameters, and these parameters will help to kind of guide the story, so it's not all over the place, so it's not anywhere. It kind of gives it some guidance and specifics. So 2 to 3 page script that consists of 3 locations or settings. So you can see right now in my script, I have an office interior, I have an exterior, so that's number 2. And then I would need a number 3. So I'll probably have, a storage room where the man's looking for seeds. That would be my 3rd location. 3 scenes. representing beginning, middle, end. So instead of having 100 scenes, I want everyone to start with just 3 scenes. So there's really a beginning scene, a middle, and an end. And there might be a little bit of an overlap. So like in this case, the interior exterior is kind of one scene. The man's inside, the bird's looking at him from outside inside. So that's, would be like one scene. And then I'll have the man come out, talk with the bird, that'll be another scene. And then I'll have the man looking for seeds and the bird flying away, and that'll be my end. And then 1 to 3 characters. So you can see I have 2 characters, I have the man, I have the bird. And so I've fulfilled that. So you can see it's keeping it really simple. 3 locations, 3 scenes, 1 to 3 characters. So, write something that you feel comfortable filming, based again on your experiences, something that you can achieve. And, I make a note here, if you're not a visual effects artist, don't write about flying dragons morphing to unicorns and things like this. We want to keep it something that you can achieve and do. So I hope that helps to go over. Our first step is to write that script. And then next week, we're going to start looking at breakdowns, getting it ready to shoot and film, and that pre-production stage. And so again, you can do this in Final Draft. You can access the Final Draft on our digital arts computers at Blue Mountains Public Library or Wasaga Beach Public Library, and coming soon to Collingwood Public Library. Otherwise, you can just use some sort of a Word document as well with using that screenwriting structure. So the scene, headings, action, character names, and dialogue. Okay, so let's get into. I can open up to some Q&A if anybody has some questions. Okay, so I see some questions here, and I'm going to just start up a Q&A as well. So yeah, some good questions here right away. So one of the questions, will we have 4 weeks to film? So as I mentioned, so this class, it will be over 4 weeks, and I'm going to be, kind of pushing the assignment and going from there. But you can technically achieve it at your own pace, because you can rewatch this and access these later. So if you want to spend 8 weeks doing this, that's fine too. The main thing is that I'm going to host these over, this week and 3 more weeks. And then you can always go back to them and decide to start writing and shooting everything after. But if you want to follow along, and this way in 4 weeks, we'll have produced a short film and shoot it, write it, pre-plan it, and then film it. So it's up to you. You can pace it how you want. But the goal is that we can do it in 4 weeks. Okay. So the class is going to be every Thursday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. So the next 3 weeks after this. So it just keeps going every Thursday. So you can definitely join us. Go on Eventbrite. You can sign up for the other 3 weeks, and that way you'll get the reminders and for all 4 events. But if you've signed up just for this week, you will still be able to access all the other 3 live events on the online event page. So you can access it there. Okay. Perfect. So yeah, this has been fantastic. So again, think about, get a story, something that you can relate to, something that's personal, experience-based. Put it together. Start with that one line. You can write a treatment. Now I've just done it, talking it through. So some people like to just do it that way, or you can write it out. Put it in a notepad or a Word document, write it on paper, use your iPad. You can do voice dictations, right? And start with that. What is a 1-sentence summary of the film? Write a couple of paragraphs, what it would be like to do that, and then go right into your script writing software. So again, it might be just something you do in your head. You might want to write those first stages down. And again, this is very short, so you don't necessarily need to write a lot about it in the treatment. It could be just like 1 paragraph to outline it. And then you want to write that 2 to 3 page script. And that's our assignment for week 1. It's perfect. Okay, so yeah, thanks again, everyone, for joining us. It was a great first week of our masterclass. My name is Tom Strnad. I'm the lead digital artist of the Creator Space. And I will be continuing this journey this afternoon. So if you haven't signed up for our editing class, the narrative film editing class will be starting today at 1 o'clock. It's a 4-week masterclass. So if you're doing this class, you may want to very well do the editing class. That way, once you finish shooting this film, you can move right into your editing and explore that with your footage. So in the editing class, we will be providing footage, but then you can also adapt it and use your own footage as you watch through it again. So yeah, it's been really great. Thanks everyone, and thanks to our partners in making this happen, Canada Council for the Arts, all our library partners, Blue Mountains Public Library, Collingwood Public Library, and Wasaga Beach Public Library. Have a great rest of the day, and please get those scripts. And I'm gonna also just make a note here. Oh, we got a couple more questions. Okay, so you can email me too. I'm just gonna give my email, tom@tbmcs.ca. I'm just gonna put that in the chat. Feel free to email me if you wanna send me your script or ideas, bounce some ideas. I'd be happy to go through that. So we wanna keep this interactive. So, if you're struggling with some ideas or you have a script and you want me to just give it a read, I'd be more than happy to. Just please do stick to the parameters of 2 to 3 pages. I don't want to be reading a 30-page big, massive script, so we want to really stay focused on our goals here. Okay, so here's one more question that I'm seeing here. Do you specify time of day in slugline, early morning? Yeah, so it can be there too. So a really good question. So instead of day, it could be, morning, it could be dusk, dawn, night, evening, whatever you want to specify the time of day, and really that's about lighting too. So if it's early morning, it's going to be a little bit darker than daytime. So yeah, really great question. You can always have extra. You can write extra things in there. It doesn't just have to be day, night. It can be afternoon, early morning, dusk, dawn, right? Anything like that. So yeah, definitely you can use those kind of parameters. Okay, so again, send me an email if you want to bounce the ideas or have questions. And otherwise, I'll see everybody next week for week 2, where we get into our breakdowns and shot lists and storyboards so we can be ready to produce our films. Have a great rest of the day and talk soon.